Cheers, everybody. Welcome to a spooky season reading vlog. I am reading Stephen King for the very first time. I'm reading his fairy tale book. And I am reading this because I have heard it is not his typical stuff, which I have, I'll be honest, not very much interest in reading. Horror is not my genre. I don't like being creeped out. I don't like being scared. And I don't like gore. Three things that I think make up a large majority of the horror books out there. So I'm going into this with a little bit of trepidation because I really don't know what to expect, but I'm going into it with hopeful trepidation and that I'm really hoping to enjoy this book. I am 78 pages in, and so far it's setting something up. So you've met Charlie, and Charlie is helping out with this older gentleman who has fallen and broken his leg. And he's taking care of his dog and trying to kind of make the house a little bit nicer. And there have been a couple of moments where you know something is coming, but I have no idea what it is. And I feel like that is being built really well. I feel like Stephen King is building up to something because right now everything is going just a little too well for this guy. And this is almost a 600-page book, so at some point something has to fall apart. I'm not really sure what to think of this title page either. I don't know if that's like steps down or it looks like an eye or what it's supposed to mean, but I am so far having a pretty good time with it. I'm reading slowly. You can hear it. I'm still not 100%, so my focus is not the greatest, but it's really short chapters, which is helpful, broken up into little parts. And another thing that I really like about this book is, where's the beginning of the chapter? Each chapter has these like crazy titles and a picture. And I think that's kind of fun. We are going to see how this goes. I am excited, like I said. I'm hoping that I really enjoy it. And I'm hoping it fulfills kind of a spooky season book without being super spooky. Let's see how this plays out. It's been a couple days, but I have made it to page 139, 140. And so far the book has been really just about establishing this relationship with Charlie and his dad and Charlie and the neighbor, which is Mr. Bowditch. And it's really building up. It's been too nice, I think, and we're at page 139, and I'm pretty sure something is about to go down. I think it's about to get creepy, and I'm curious to see how it goes, because this is really going to be probably what decides whether or not I continue with this book or not, because it's really the horror elements that I know I'm going to struggle with, and things are about to get creepy, I'm pretty sure. So let's see how it goes, because the creepy thing that's happening in the backyard is potentially about to make itself known. We shall see. But I know that something's got to happen because it's actually been a pretty slow book so far. I'm enjoying reading it, but nothing has really happened. It's really just establishing these relationships between these people and how Charlie has come to be friends with the dog and friends with this man. And I'm very curious about where it goes. So fingers crossed, the next update is good, because it really is going to be the deciding factor, I think, at least for me to continue on in this book until the next super creepy thing happens. Let's see what happens. This isn't a spoiler because it's in the synopsis, but Mr. Bowditch just died, and that's really sad. And he told Charlie that everything he needs to know is under the bed. I don't know what that means, but I'm thinking maybe it means something not so good. To those of you who have read it, you're probably like, yeah, it means something not good. But I haven't read this yet. I'm not sure. But that is what I suspect. We continue on. The creepy thing that happened didn't end up being creepy. It was really happened off page. So as a reader, I don't know what's going on. But like I said, it can't possibly be good. page 193, and things are starting to propel forward. What I'm enjoying about this book right now is it's throwing in little bits of fairy tales. It is called Fairy Tale, and some of them are very self-aware, and I think other ones are a little bit more subliminal, and I'm finding that really interesting. Charlie has kind of started to discover this secret that Mr. Bowditch has bestowed upon him, and he's beginning to really question the people around him and thinking, do you know what's going on? Do you know what's going on? You said this thing, and it kind of correlates, and it's really interesting. I think it's going to get pretty tense, and I think it's going to break my heart. One of the main characters in here sort of is a dog, and I think there's a real potential for that to be a kind of a devastating relationship, if I'm being honest, but I'll try not to think too hard about that because I still have quite a bit. So like I said, I'm on page 193, and this is a 500, it's almost a 600 page book. It's been going a little slowly just in terms of my having the time to read, but I am off today. It is 10 o'clock. My goal is to be done this by 4, because at 4 o'clock today, my Toronto Maple Leafs play. The NHL season started last night. I'm so excited. And my Leafs play and my Colorado Avalanche play. So Leafs forever, go Avs go. And I would like to be done this so that I can just sit back and enjoy and watch the game tonight. We'll see how that goes. We're having the first coffee of the day on the couch. And like I said, I've got nothing else I need to do. I am still tired, but surviving. So it seems like kind of the perfect day to just sit back, film this video, read this book, drink my coffee, watch some hockey, and have a good time. It is 2:20. I've been reading for, I guess, like 4 hours and a bit now. I am almost at page 400. And I think I need to take a bit of a break from reading because that's just a long time to spend reading. So I am not likely, I've still got this much left, probably not going to finish today. But here's what I think of this book. I think Stephen King wrote this book. First of all, I feel like it's a COVID book, only in that it feels like it's a book that an author has wanted to write for a while and finally got the chance to, and he just threw everything he loves about fairy tales and horror and that sort of thing into a book, and that's what we're getting. I've never read Stephen King before, so I can't compare this to any of his other works, but this reminds me of, I don't know what I was thinking with something called Fairy Tale, but I don't think I expected it to be so like a fairy tale, and that's what this feels like to me. I'm having a good time. It reminds me though of a book like Narnia or Wildwood, or even Redwall, where these fantastical creatures and fantastical things happen but for kids, and this feels like an aged up version of that. And I'm enjoying it because a lot of the elements that I like about those stories are in here, and I think that's why it's not reading so horror or so scary, because you're getting these elements of kind of the supernatural or the fantastical that for me dumb down the horror, makes it not so horrific. And yes, there are still things in here that are kind of gross and lean into that genre, but it isn't so far into this genre that I can't handle it. The one thing I would say about this book, just as a thought project, and it's not something that I'm going to go into because I don't really know enough about it, but I know there's a thing in fairy tales about disabilities being presented in problematic ways, and I wonder if that book also kind of falls into this trap, because in this book there are a lot of disabilities, and I'm just not sure about how some of them are written about or discussed or acknowledged in the main character looking at somebody who has a disability. That's all I would say about it. I'm not going to go into a deep conversation, but I do wonder where this book falls on the spectrum of disability representation. That's all I would say. But yeah, I'm really enjoying myself. I
I'm not giving spoilers in this, but I'm at a point where things seem a little dismal, and I'm not sure how Charlie is going to get out of the predicament that he's in, but I'm sure he will. And again, even more kind of fairy tale, Disney, even Disney-esque type things are being introduced into this book. And because that's not what I was expecting, I don't know whether or not it's going to continue or if more intense horror elements are going to come in. I just have no idea what to expect, but I'm having a good time. I've read almost 200 pages today, and I will try to read a little bit more. I just need to take a bit of a break before I do, because my mind is starting to wander a little bit. But yeah, there we go. Hopes. First experience into Stephen King so far is going well. It's possibly my first and last into Stephen King, let's be honest. But I'm having a good time, and I'm definitely curious to see how the story plays out. So for now, I'm gonna take a break. Maybe I'll read this through intermissions, because I'm actually gonna watch the hockey game live, and we'll see how much further I get along today. But I do have a little bit of time before work tomorrow, so hopefully before work tomorrow I'm done. We'll see. I just want to mention that there's a sentence in here that says, a dashing prince right out of a Disney animated feature. So, the Disney thing, I was on with that.
It is the next morning. I have finished Fairy Tale by Stephen King, finishing my cup of coffee, and I have to say that I enjoyed this book a lot. I looked up on Storygraph what it's actually being filed under in terms of genre, and it's fantasy fiction for the Storygraph. I imagine that's probably where it's going to be in most places, and that's where I think it should fall. I hadn't looked into, like I said, when I was told about this book, I was told that it really wasn't a horror book. But because it was Stephen King, I think I went into it with the assumption that there would still be some horror elements. And I think there are. You can see in his writing. His writing is incredible. He creates really great stories, really good characters. He gets into the details. It gets a little long at points. I think that sometimes there's more detail than needs to be had. But I can see that in certain scenes, the way he writes, I can see where that style of writing and that type of writing would really lean itself to horror, and that means I'm probably never going to read one of his horror books. I don't think they would be for me. I think they would be a little bit too intense, a little bit too graphic, and that's not the kind of book that I enjoy, and because I know that, I don't even really want to try it. But I can absolutely see that the standard of his writing and the standard of his storytelling is top-notch. What's also interesting about this book is it pulls from so many different things that we are familiar with and brought up with in our reading that nothing in this book is really all that original, but the way he puts it together, I think, creates a really unique story, and I think that's really clever and just a really clear indication of the level with which this man writes. So I appreciated that very much. I am really glad to have read it. This has been on my shelf for forever. I did buy this from Friends of the Library. It was $2. I think I'm going to donate it back to Friends of the Library. It's not a book that I think I need to keep on my shelves, and because it's so big, I would feel good about putting it back into the world and having somebody else pick this up, because if you want to know what Stephen King's writing is about without the horror elements, I would say give this a go. I had a really good time. If you like fantasy, if you like fairy tales particularly, I would say this is a great book. I'm actually not a big fairy tale retelling person. That's not something that I typically go to. Same with like Greek mythology. I don't really love Greek mythology retellings either, but I think he presented this in a really great way. And I think the relationship with Charlie and the people around him, it creates kind of a homey vibe, even though a cozy homey vibe, yeah, even though things around him are a bit of a disaster. And so I definitely enjoyed myself. I am thrilled to have finally gotten through a big chunky book, because I haven't been feeling the greatest, although I'm finally starting to see an improvement. It's been a while since I've been able to sit down and really dedicate myself to a book of this size, so that in itself feels like a great accomplishment, and I am excited for whatever I read next. I'm not sure what that will be, but hopefully it will continue to be a good one. So I hope everybody has a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.